Good evening. Welcome to our session again. So tonight we're going to be talking about role playing on interviews, how to impress your interviewers so you land your dream job, right? So that's what we're doing tonight. Now we're going to talk about an interview strategy. For like with everything else, you need to prepare. So I say to people, write your stories, and they're like, stories? What do you mean by stories? And one of the things we're going to be teaching tonight is how to actually come up with a story. Why stories? Because storytelling, everybody remembers a story, a good story, right? If I come and I tell you a story, you'll probably remember it tomorrow because of something that resonated with you or something that was funny in between the story than if I just talk at you. So again, with interview, it's about a conversation. It's not just you going in to answer questions being asked at you. You're also going there to ensure that it's the right fit for you. You should bring your personality, converse with your interviewer, and try and get like a view of what type of company you're about to work for. So you should have a strategy. Actors don't just get up and start acting. They actually practice their lines. They practice so that they can actually bring that role or bring that character to life. It's the same thing in an interview. You have to practice, you have to plan for it, to come for it, and to be able to successfully get that job. Because the whole idea of an interview is to land a job. That's your aim, to land that job so that they choose you out of every other candidate as the best person for that job. So when we have an interview strategy, what is that? We start off by researching the company you're going to be working for. So many times I've had people come up by interview and I said, what do you know about us? Nothing. That's not good. I mean, that's if I might as well say to you, can you just look, let's just end the interview because it shows you have no interest in working here. You don't want to know what we do. You don't understand the company you're coming to work for. So again, researching the company is very key. Understanding the key requirements of the job. Look at that job description. Understand what they're asking you for. Match your skill set to the requirements of that job, because that's how you start to even understand the kind of questions. So the job description tells you the questions they're going to answer, they're going to ask you. That's actually the easiest way to get your interview or to succeed at your interview is to understand the requirements of the job and then match your skill set to that job. Know yourself. So that's again understanding what your skills are, matching your skill set to the job. Prepare your stories. Like I said, storytelling is very, very key. It's one of the it's actually the biggest or the most interesting way, to actually showcase yourself. So prepare your stories, practice, 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 practice. Understand the logistics. So if it's a virtual interview, because that's becoming very common these days, ensure that you have a quiet space, your your laptop is charged, you can hear properly, do a practice run. If it's a physical interview face to face, understand how long it's going to take you to get there so you don't get there late. And you understand, and you're not there, because if you get there late, then what tends to happen is you're nervous already. You're already starting off on the bad foot. Okay, so understand your logistics, come up with your questions. Again, another turn off at interviews is when they're finished and they say to you, do you have any questions? And you're like, no. That's almost like, okay, definitely a no. Okay, so come up with questions that you want to ask them. And again, if you turn that interview into a conversation, you'll find that it's a two-way thing. You're asking questions in between, not only at the end of the interview, but in between, and again, making yourself interesting. Be honest. Okay, if you don't understand a question, ask. There's nothing wrong in saying, can you repeat yourself? And if you don't know the answer to that, then the best thing to say is, I've never come across that. I'm happy to go do some research and get back to you and send an email with my answer, or even say to them, can you, I've never come across that. What exactly is it? Or can you answer that for me? Again, it shows your vulnerability. It shows that you're honest. It shows that you're willing to learn. Okay, self-assessment at the end of your interview. Assess yourself. Where was I good at? What was I good at? And where can I improve? And of course, work on that. And always send a thank you email on the back of your interview, just to say thank you for your time. I really enjoyed meeting you. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay. So what are the types of interviews? We have telephone, and sometimes that's just used to screen and shortlist the next candidate. Then we have again, like I said, virtual interviews are getting very common following the pandemic. Face-to-face, where you meet physically with one or more interviewers. So it could be a panel of people. Assessment days. Usually you'll have this graduate type roles, which consists of a range of interview approaches, just to kind of see how you fit with the team. And then psychometric testing, again, this is different tests to kind of understand your verbal and aptitude competency. So do's and don'ts. right? So the do get to the interview on time. I mean, of course, sometimes it might be that you actually left early. There was an accident in the way, so you couldn't get there on time. Call them and let them know you're running late, why you're running late, and of course, apologize. But the truth is, if you get to an interview late, you're already flustered. So again, you're starting off on the bad foot. You're already anxious about it. So try and get to the interview on time. Control the interview. Again, by the time we're done with our role playing today, you know how to control the interview. And how do you do that? By conversation again. It's just by having that conversation, talking rather than being spoken to or spoken at, it's a two-way conversation. Maintain your eye contact, be interested in what they have to say. Okay. Look at them when they're talking to you. Don't be looking at everywhere else but them, but maintain the eye contact. Bring your personality. So imagine if you had a, you remember that the interviewer are also human beings. They have a day job to do. So make it easy for them as opposed to just going there and just being boring, like speaking slowly, not bringing your personality. Be bubbly, bring your personality to the table. Speak slowly and clearly. I speak very fast, so I'm always like and I speak. So I keep practicing how to speak slowly and clearly. So again, speak slowly and clearly. Admit when you don't know the answer, like I said before, watch your body language. This is already a no-no. It means like I'm defensive. I'm ready to, I'm ready to get defensive. Or tapping your finger. Some things we do, we don't even realize we do it. Okay, so be very conscious, and that's why again, part of the you're practicing is get somebody answer, speak or tell somebody your questions or your answers. Sorry, get practice with somebody else so they can actually start to point those things out. Because some things we do, it's just a habit and we're not aware of it. Know your CV, and please turn off your phone and put it away. There's nothing more annoying than the phone going off during your interview. It will derail your thoughts. It will derail your interviewer's thoughts. It will annoy them as well. Don't chew gum during the interview, please. Don't use buzzwords incorrectly just because you want to sound intelligent. Don't use company jargon. Keep it simple. Actually, keep it simple. That's actually the key thing. Don't monopolize the interview. So it's good to have a conversation, but it's a two-way conversation. Remember that. Don't be abusive for your former employer, even if you don't like them. Don't go abusing them because it's a no-no because it means that you can do it to them as well. Don't be confrontational or defensive, right? If you think you're being given constructive criticism, learn from it. Don't get defensive at all. Don't interrupt the interviewer when speaking. Don't answer the question incorrectly. And unless it's raised, don't be the one to discuss salary, holidays, or benefits. Because again, at an interview, you're trying to show how you can add value to a company. It's about how can I serve you, not what's in it for me, right? And so behavioral interview, again, this is very common and it helps that this is where we are trying to understand how you would behave in a particular work situation. And it's based on the fact that if you've done it in the past, it can predict what you will do in the future, right? So they use it to help the interviewers hire the right person. We need to focus on the experiences, skills, knowledge, and abilities that are related to the job. It's the interviewer is interested in you describing how you behave in a particular situation, like I've said, and they'll be testing your answers for accuracy and consistency. Again, everybody's answer will be different. There's no right or wrong, but it's how you sell yourself at the end of the day. It's how you sell yourself. Okay. So what are they evaluating in your behavioral interview? So technical skills. Example, if you're a business analyst, right? They're looking at your business analyst techniques. So those are technical skills. Or if you are a computer programmer, looking at your coding skills or the languages you know. So those technical skills, those things that attain to your education. That's one of the things they're looking at in the behavioral interview. They're also looking at your soft skills. Example, for us as business analysts, they're looking at things like critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills, facilitation skills, etc. And they'll be looking at your interpersonal skills. So are you a team player? Do you have empathy, emotional intelligence? What's your listening skills like? So these are the kind of things that they're actually, when they're asking you these behavioral type questions, they're trying to deduce from your answers. So when we answer the behavioral interview questions, this is how we go about it. We use a method called the STAR technique. All right, so it's STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So you give a brief background of the situation, right? Of what it was, of what, when, and where this was happening. Describe the task that you did, right? So what did you do because of this thing, or the situation, and what was the action? How did you execute the task? What were the steps you took? And this is where you actually, this is the core of your story, the actions that you took, and what was the result on the back of those actions? What did you achieve? Right? Always focus on what you achieved. So don't start saying we, even if you were a team. Talk about what you did within that team, not what others helped you achieve. Because again, it's about you, right? It's what have you done? How did you do this? And so our interview checklist, just again, to ensure that we remember, practice, 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 dress professionally. Again, you can ask somebody to see, dress in front of somebody and get their opinion. Smile, a smile, a smile can go a long way, honestly. Just bringing your personality. Smile, arrive early. If it's a physical interview, no more than 15 minutes. If it's a virtual interview, at least be there 5 minutes before the interview kicks in. Bring copies of your CV. So because if it's physical interview, to share it with them, because sometimes they might not even have seen, they might not have had the time to see it. So bringing the copies of CV shows that you're organized. Bring a paper and pen to take notes. There's nothing wrong in taking notes and writing down things that you might want to ask on the back of what they've said, so because you don't want to interrupt them. Prepare questions to ask. Again, it's very important to have your questions at hand. Send a thank you email afterwards, and then follow up. If you haven't heard from them, maybe in a few days, and follow up and say to them, I'm just following up on our interview to see if you made a decision yet on who you want to go with. Again, one of the questions you should always ask is, what is the next steps? What is the next steps? It's a very key question to ask. At least that's one question I'm giving you. What is the next steps on the back of that interview? All right. And then the signs of a good interview is that, where you feel more like a conversation, where it lasts longer than expected, because obviously having a good conversation, where they come and introduce you to team members and senior management, okay, that's a good sign. And their body language gives it away. They're really happy. They can't wait to have you on board, and where they're getting lots of positive feedback. So some of my interviews have been like, oh my goodness, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I can't remember the last time I had a good interview like this. That's a good sign. Those kind of positive feedback is really key, and you'll have an idea if you're getting, if it's been a good interview or not. And then finally, have you got any questions? Is there any questions in the chat? If there isn't, then we can start. Is there any questions? Sorry, I'm just reading. Nothing. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Does anybody want to volunteer to be because they're going to start role playing now. Does anybody want to volunteer to be part of our role play? We have Bumi and we have Grace, like I said, ready. Does anybody from the attendee, or should I just pick? If you want to just put your hands up. I'm going to stop sharing now so I can see everyone. Any volunteer? No? Okay. No one is brave enough. No worries. All right. Okay. So the way this is going to work though is Bumi has volunteered to be the one that is going to give an average answer. Thank you, Ayo. Ayo has volunteered. So Bumi has volunteered to be the one giving her an average answer, and then Grace is going to give the best answer, right? And actually, I'm happy for you guys to vote, because Grace might also decide that she wants to give an average answer as well, and see what you guys think. And then if I have anything to add to it, I'll add to it. Right. So, but Ayo, since you've kindly volunteered, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you on the spot. First question: what are the questions that you'll always get? One of the questions that you'll always get is, tell me about yourself. Typical question. So Ayo, tell me about yourself.
Good question. Well, my name is Ayo. I'm a data analyst, and I work for Dell. And obviously, if I'm at an interview, I'm just currently looking for, I didn't quite prepare for that question.
Well, you volunteered.
To be honest. But yeah, just my name is Ayo. I'm a data analyst and I'm very keen on working for your organization. So yeah, I think that's probably what I would just start off with, to be honest. It depends. You sort of like have to like gauge the people that you're facing as well, whether they look open to you saying a lot or a little. So yeah, it all depends.
You can't gauge how if people are open to saying a lot or not. I don't know how you do that. You need to tell us, show us the app that can help us gauge, because that'll really help us a lot. All right, Bumi, you go on. Ayo, well done. Thank you so much. Actually, thanks.
Yes, you're talking about body language. You see their face. Am I saying the right thing? Am I not saying the right thing?
Sometimes, no, looking at their face might confuse you, because
I don't even look at their face. I just say what I want to say. And
some people have a poker face, and they're not, their face is just like this. They're not smiling.
You kind of
So,
To be fair, yeah. To be fair. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Or good evening. I'm just going to go into interview mode. Good evening.
Hold on, Bumi. Introduce yourself, sorry, before you answer that question.
No,
Because I haven't. I said I was going to introduce you.
You are meant to introduce us, not we.
No, but I said you talk about yourself. Okay, so Bumi and Grace. Okay, if you guys want me to introduce you, I'll do that.
Yes.
Bumi and Grace are business analysts, both working for consulting firms that have that initially started off on the weak leg of, oh, I don't want to interview, I can't interview, I don't know how to interview, I'm not good at interviewing, oh, what do I say, what don't I say? And are now like always bring it on. So I mean, at one point during the pandemic, Grace had 5 job offers. At 5 interviews she went, she got offered all 5. Bumi went for an interview that everybody thought, oh my God, how can you, nobody, you're not going to get that job because it's too senior. They're not even going to pay you what you want. And Bumi, am I right? The same day, right? You got offered that role the same day. So she had multiple choices as well, where it was a decision like, what am I going to do? Which job am I going to go with? So they are very experienced at interviews. I brought them on board because they've also been in that journey where we're not sure, we're not getting the job, and then now we're constantly, every interview we go for, we're being offered the job, and it's now like, which one should we go with? Okay, that's them in summary, but they're exceptional.
I don't know about very experienced about interviewing. Let me clarify one thing. I don't know about them very experienced. I just think sometimes it's just your, like for me, a lot of times I put it down to God as well and favor. So yeah, but obviously your
of course, God always. First,
but your personality has to come through in interviews, and you just get that likability factor. So yeah.
All right, and then Ayo, just before I forget, you don't start by saying my name is Ayo. Please don't start tell me about yourself with your name. Why? Because I already know you. I've met you. I've brought you on board. I've brought you into the interview room. I've said hello, Bumi. Hello, Grace. Hello, Ayo. So telling me my name is Ayo is almost redundant, right?
So, but I think it's the way she said it.
It's a comfort thing.
And I think if she said my name is Grace, my name is Ayo, as you well know, then it doesn't sound redundant anymore. So I guess it's the way you phrase it too that could make it. I think it just gives you that kind of that soft landing before you.
Yeah, it's quite nerve-wracking. Anyways, let me just start. So
Bumi, over to you.
So good evening. My name is Bumi, and my name is Bumi, and I am a business analyst with a background in engineering. I worked in the oil and gas sector, and I'm currently working in consulting, and I have a lot of skills that you have put in your job description that I have critical analytical thinking, critical thinking. I'm the person you want for the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Bumi.
Grace,
Grace, over to you.
So I'm Grace, as you well know, and I'm a senior business analyst. Well, I started my career over 14 years ago in the financial industry. I've worked in various roles and domains, which includes private banking, mortgages, wealth management, and lots more. So I decided to transition into the business analysis space some years back. And the reason I did that was because I realized I had a natural flair for being inquisitive, or what you call it, being nosy. I was very nosy as a child, and I've always been, I never mind my business. So I just realized that was kind of an attribute that kind of leans into the business analysis role. And so I decided I was going to transition. And so what I did was, obviously I had to kind of educate myself and get the knowledge about business analysis. So since transitioning, I've worked on various large, complex transformation projects and programs, and I've also been involved in large-scale, complex bids. So I've been able to utilize my skills and technique and experience I've gained over the years to bring value to any project or program I undertake. One of such qualities is my communication, relationship building, analytical and critical thinking skills. These skills have helped me over the years to build an outstanding relationship with stakeholders while managing their expectations and driving key changes and solutions to optimize business performance, efficiency, and profitability. I'm skilled at investigating and understanding the current state of the business, as well as eliciting and understanding the needs of the business, project, or program, thereby determining the best solution that will bring about increased efficiency and reduce long-term costs in the long run. And I've used various techniques and skills like interviewing, workshops, observation, document analysis, and lots more other relevant techniques and tools. So I am very passionate about my work, and I always try to ensure that any project or any work I undertake, I ensure I bring value to both the business, the users, and the community as a whole. So thank you.
Whoa.
All right, I'm going to get the attendees to decide if based on those answers alone, you were going to hire someone, would it be Bumi, Ayo, or Grace? Can somebody? I just said you hired. When can you start? So who are you going to hire? Ayo, what are you hiring? Bumi, yourself, or Grace?
Definitely Grace. And then I'll consider Bumi.
All right. So we also okay. Oh, definitely hire Grace. Okay, thank you. Grace for president. Oh, thank you. So Grace, you won that round. Actually, I'm going to speed this up now. Bumi, you can become.
I think Bumi should do a good one too. I think you should do a good one.
And we can see. But then, okay, but bottom line is everyone is saying Grace. All right, I'm going to go to Onyi. Why Grace? You can chat. You can go off mute, or you can type it in. Why Grace? Why not Bumi? Why not Ayo?
She gave me all the details.
For me,
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, she gave me all the details that I needed from her experience with work. That tells me that she will be a good fit for the role. So she didn't just tell me about herself. She gave me, a background. She told me her work experience, gave me her critical selling points, the things she does well, her key strengths on the job. And as a recruiter, that's the kind of thing I'll be interested in knowing.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. So you see, and then that also said, so most of the time, that's the first question they'll ask you. Why? Because they want to give you a soft landing. That actually sets, and that answer you give sets the tone for the interview. Because Grace was able to give us her techniques. So even if I was going to ask her what techniques do you use, she's covered that already. She's already leading that interview, because then I'm asking her questions that she's comfortable with, because she's there to answer based on that. So,
can I just add something about the tell me about yourself question? It's an opportunity for the interviewers to get like a summary of who you are. And I think one thing people miss is also a way for them to assess if you kind of know what that role entails and you're aligning. So what they're trying to see is your own view on what you think your skills and capabilities are that aligns to that job role. So it's just a way for you to sell yourself and make them know that you are kind of aligned and understand what that role entails. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Grace. Fantastic. Yes, that's correct. So, and I was going to give you guys a format to tell me about yourself. So you could cover, so this is 4 things. Cover your early years, right? Cover your education, cover your work history, cover your recent career experience, right? I could give you one that I've prepared, but I'll leave it. I'll go to the next question. And that was fantastic. Thank you, Grace, and thank you, Bumi, for that. The next question Tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult customer. Are you still volunteering on this one? No? Yes? You're mute.
1 second, I just escaped myself to a quiet room. Okay. One time I had to deal with a difficult customer. So using the STAR method, situation, task,
Have we lost Ayo or okay? Have we lost her?
I think we've lost her. Okay, Grace, you go on.
Okay, so for me, dealing with a difficult
work.
Sorry, Ayo, are you back? Okay.
So can you hear me?
No, yeah, we couldn't hear you. We lost you. We lost you for a bit.
Oh, sorry. My signal keeps on cutting out. Okay, so when I worked with Simmons in the human resources capacity, there was an instance where I had to, there was a case that had been escalated by a hiring manager, and I essentially, investigated the case, and made contact with, relevant stakeholders that were involved. And off the back of it, just trying to think now. So off the back of it, I essentially ensured that all the necessary people that were involved were communicated with. I ensured that I listened accordingly to what the needs were in regards to that particular situation. Ensured that everything was dealt with in a short space of time. And overall, the issue was, was handled in a short space of time. Everybody involved was quite satisfied. So I'm just trying to think off the bat now. I'm not quite prepared for this.
No, and it shows, and I'm happy. The reason why I'm happy you volunteered is so that because this happens in real life. If you're not prepared for an interview, that's what's going to happen, because you don't have any stories to tell. You're trying to think on the fly, and it's really difficult to do that. So you're actually doing great. Well done. All right, Grace, so you go next.
Okay, so for me, dealing with a difficult customer or client or whatever is something you always experience daily in your program, in your project, even in a home, dealing with your kids. So for me, I was assigned to a project where I had to acquire like a new third-party application. So what we wanted to do was to transition and reallocate like delegated authority funds for investment to their target allocation. So I was assigned to the project, and I had my first meeting with the project sponsor and the project manager, and where we're able to kind of define what the objective and the scope of work entails. I was also given a list of stakeholders' names and their contact, who were going to, the stakeholders are going to help with the work that was entailed. So I decided to reach out to the stakeholders and book the initial meetings and introductions with them. And I specifically went for the key primary stakeholder. He was really key to this project because he had all the knowledge. He was what we call your subject matter expert. He had all the knowledge. He was going to be the one signing off on a lot of the projects. So I booked the initial meeting with him, and he accepted the meeting. 30 minutes and I gave him enough time and obviously to prepare for the meeting. But on the day we're meant to have the meeting, about a few minutes, I would say about 10 minutes before the meeting, he canceled on me and just said, "Oh, sorry, can you reschedule?" It was fine to me, and I did, thinking, okay, obviously something has come up. And I rescheduled the meeting, and the second time he did the same thing again. Maybe a few minutes to the meeting and he canceled again. I was like, obviously there's something wrong. There's an issue, there's a problem here. He doesn't obviously want to meet with me. So I was like, okay, how do I tackle this? So I just decided to leave it first. And I decided I was going to approach him in a more informal way. So luckily for me, there was a day I spotted him in the breakout room. So I went up to him, introduced myself, told him I was a new business analyst, because then I just started in a few months ago in the company. Told him I was a business analyst and was assigned to the project. I didn't go into like any details about the work or anything. And then we had a chit chat and, just getting to know each other, on a personal level, and I left. So I gave him a day or two, and then the next thing I walked up to his desk, because obviously I'd, started building that rapport with him. So I walked up to his desk and I was like, you know what, I've been booking this meeting and you keep canceling. Can we reschedule this meeting, or what is the problem? I, asked him point blank, what was the problem? And then obviously he opened up to me. Oh, I don't think I'm interested in this project. I've been working on this for 3 years and it's not gone anywhere. It keeps being shoved and, not picked up. I'm tired of contributing to this. And it went on and on and on and on and on. And obviously I listened. And when it was done, the first thing I did was obviously acknowledge, where he was coming from. So I told him, obviously, I do understand where you're coming from. It can be quite frustrating, to start something and then you see it just drops and nobody, gives you any information. And so what I told him was that obviously I was brought into the project to try and get this over the line. And my promise to him was not to deliver, but to keep him in touch and in line with every aspect of it. So more of like openness and transparency in terms of, even if we had an issue or there was a blockage or anything happening, I'll keep him informed. I told him I didn't even need him to be heavily involved in the project, but obviously when we needed his input, I needed him to be there for the meetings. So obviously we agreed and we came to a compromise, and he started coming to the meetings that are relevant to him. As at the time I was leaving the company, we had gotten through to gathering the requirement, getting the RFI, that's request for the suppliers in. We had nailed down the suppliers we were going to go with, and we're at a stage where we're looking at the build and the design and how to implement the project. But then I was leaving, so obviously because of my promise to him, I told him so I was leaving. I gave him the contact of who was going to be running the project and, getting the project through to the, to the finish line. And as of today, we're still friends on LinkedIn and, we still communicate. And that's how I was able to deal with him. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Esther has a hand up. Okay, so before I come to me, Esther has a hand up. Esther, yes.
So are we, is it okay for us to have follow-up question based on what because I know there are follow-up questions.
Yes,
based on the way you have answered.
There are follow-up questions. All right, Esther, hold on to your follow-up question. Let Bumi have her day, and then you can ask Bumi your follow-up. You can ask Grace your follow-up question.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, Bumi, go ahead.
When did I have to deal with a difficult customer? I was on a project. We had this happened. This is the most recent scenario I can think of, and I was on a project where we had a high-profile client, and when I mean high-profile, he brought in 70% of the income that we had in the company, and we had a project that we had to deploy, and was staged in like maybe 3 stages, and this was the first stage. So I was a business analyst in the project. And what we had done was I'd done my bit about, gathering the requirements, and there was a team of us actually, not just myself. So we'd done our bit gathering requirements and just making sure that what the customer wanted to be built, and I'm just going to break it down to simpler terms, what the customer wanted to be built was built. So we had built it, we'd done the user acceptance testing, which is a test where you test that what you have built is actually fit for purpose. So we had tested that and passed, we had celebrated. The client was really happy because what we had done at the time was done it well before the time that we had said it would be done or it would be launched. So we have maybe like 1 month to launch, and they're like, okay, fine, this is fantastic. Let's test it, it works. And then we have their engineers come on site, because what happened was they came into the company to do their testing, and then after they do the whole testing, then they can take the software and then work on it online on their sites. So all that work, they were happy. But then it turns out that this thing that we built wasn't working when it was taken to client site. And why was the customer difficult? Because you'd say, well, the customer is well within their rights to be upset that, you've built something that hasn't worked. It was because he was threatening he was asking for his money back, and he was also threatening to pull out the other stages of, and he was seemingly inconsolable. So what did I do? What in this whole story? Well, because these conversations were not happening with me in that scenario, but then obviously it then trickles down. The way it works in organizations starts from top to bottom, and then it trickles down to you, and you hear that, well, it seems like something is wrong here. So then what I then did, because I was one of the BAs on the project, we then had a workshop. We're going to the solution, or what we did to do that. And then what they then found, we then found out, it works here, it works on site, but there's something not quite, working properly when they take it on site. And then what we found out was that the system had been built with Wi-Fi, or having some sort of
firewall.
Yes, exactly, internet-based scenario. Whereas where they were was quite remote, so they didn't have any internet facilities. So we had to look at how to build that remotely. So what did we do? So once we found that out, we then deployed as many people, manpower, all that we could, sent them out. It even meant that the company not lost, but they didn't make as much, money as they should have, because that needed to be fixed. So many people went there day and night, and we got it working. Bottom line, we got it working. The client was happy. The same person that was shouting was very happy and gave us more work. So that's where I came in. We had to do a root cause analysis, find out exactly what's wrong, and then make sure the client or the customer is happy. Main thing is listen to them. What is the problem? Listen to what it is. Where can we go from there? What's absolutely essential? How can we fix this, and how can we move forward? And that's what I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Before Esther goes on with her follow-up question, let's vote first. So who would we hire based on these answers? Grace, Bumi, or Ayo?
Either of them.
Sorry?
Either of the two.
Okay, either. Okay. Artist is saying both. Joy is saying Grace. Jackie is saying both. Great answers. Thank you. Okay, so Bumi and Grace, you guys won this round. I actually love the fact that
it wasn't meant to be it was meant to be me being
I actually love the fact that Bumi, you act. So if I had to hire between you and Grace, and no offense here, Grace, your answer was great. Bumi's own was short and to the point, because at some point I lost you, Grace, in what you were trying to get at. But Bumi was short and to the point, and I've gone with Bumi because at the end as well, she said, she kind of summarized it. Listen to them, understand what the problem is, and then go forward and see how we can solve it. Right. So she kind of summarized that. So that was a nice ending. Esther, your hand is up, and you can please ask your follow-up question.
Yeah. So I just want to comment on both of them first and ask my follow-up question. Okay. So the reason why I chose that is either of the two of them is because, like you said, Grace's answer was quite interesting, but it was long. And sometimes because this panel, they have a list of questions that they want to ask you, so they want to go through that list, and so they lost in the process. But I actually like this answer because as she was talking, she was actually bringing out some of the attributes and those skills of a BA, what you need to do in situations like that. She was actually mentioning those things: root cause analysis, listening, communications, and all those things. And that was great. My follow-up question for Grace, because she mentioned something about going to meet, I know Grace, please. Please don't cut off my head. I know you made in your answer, you said, okay, you went to this particular stakeholder during a breakout, in a breakout room, just to chat and all that. So considering if I'm on that panel, I'll ask you that, okay, now most times we are working remotely, so we are not in the office. What would you have done differently? Because there won't be any desk for you to work to. There won't be a breakout room. It will be breakout room on Teams or Zoom. So what will happen? How would you have approached that situation?
I love this follow-up, Esther. I love this follow-up question. And this is Grace, hold on before you answer again, because this is for our attendees now. This is what's going to happen in the interview. There'll be follow-up questions based on your answer. So again, when you're giving that answer, ensure that it's back to that practice, because Grace is actually ready to give an answer because she's practiced her questions, she's practiced the answers, so she knows on the back of that the kind of questions that that might come on the back of it. So Grace, yes, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, if it was more like in a situation where obviously when I'm in the office, I would send him messages, emails, or I would use Teams, personal Teams, where I could, even monitor to see if he's viewing my messages. And if he's still not responding, the next thing I'd have to do is escalate to the next level, senior management that could get him on board. So that's what I'll do. Yeah.
Thank you. So let me just add to that, because I know, like Esther, that's a very good follow-up question. Where most of us are working remotely these days, how do we even start to build relationships? And yes, Teams, chat. When you start on a role, hello, hi, this is me, Vivian. This is my first day. I'm introducing myself. I understand that we're going to work on the same project. Do you have 5 minutes for a quick call? And again, back to vulnerability. People like to feel like they're helping you. So even if you know something, sometimes you just go like, I was just wondering, do you know how to do X, Y, Z? Maybe you might know it, but it's the fact that they see that, oh, she needs my help or he needs my help. They already, they feel like they're helping you to onboard you. That's already a relation. That's another way of building a relationship, right? So Teams, if we're working remotely and you're thinking, oh, I haven't met anybody. I have made so many good friends via Teams. I haven't even met them physically. Some of them I've eventually met, but we're such good friends. You think that we met each other in the office. So thank you for that, Grace. Okay. Do we have time for one more questions? No, we have 12 minutes left. Okay, I think I should open it up to the attendees. Any questions, any observation? The floor is open. Please ask your questions. Bumi, do you want to add anything?
I have a question.
Yes, Esther.
God help us.
Esther,
why now? You want me to ask questions?
No, please ask your question, please. Don't mind them.
Okay, so
I know Esther, that's why I'm making that joke. I won't do it to any other person.
It's Bumi that should answer first.
Okay,
anyway, anybody can answer first. Okay, so my question is, so if we hire you, what skills are you bringing into our organization? Why should we hire you? What skills will you be adding? What are your addition to the team? So what new thing are you bringing into the team? That's my question.
Okay. Bumi, do you want to go first, or do you want Grace to go first?
Wouldn't that depend on the person's
Start the question.
Sorry, Aya. What did you say?
Wouldn't that depend on the person's specification and
I think it has to do. I think this just has to do with your soft skills, or I don't think there's a. Well, for me, if I'm going to answer this question, I don't think there is a. What's that word? There's a perfect answer. I think it's just about how you want to sell this.
Well, it's similar to the first question, isn't it?
It's just selling yourself. I don't think it's.
Let me put it this way, Ayo. It's not about the job. It's not about the job description, because by the time they're asking you this question, this is towards the end. Okay. So basically they're saying to you, why should we hire you? What are you bringing to the table that XYZ doesn't have? So one of the things you can say is like, I believe I've shown that I have strong work ethics. I'm able to solve complex problems. I've shown you my soft skills that are required to do the job based on my conversations so far. And I've also shown you that I have solved similar problems, because again, remember, you're tying back our skills back to the JD. So I've also shown you that I've solved similar problems the organization is currently facing with my past clients or my past organizations, and hopefully that my unique and varied work experiences with the different companies I've worked for makes me stand out when compared to other candidates with similar skill set. Okay, so again, this is your opportunity to wrap that conversation up, because you've had a conversation with them. They're not asking why you are not the next person, and you're saying, summarizing everything you've spoken to them about based on the JD. Again, of course, you're meeting those needs and telling them that I'm the right person for the job, right?
It's good if Mama answered this last one. Take one herself.
You've already answered.
I think it's so similar to the interview with my current job, because what I was going to say is, don't be afraid to be different from what they're asking for. And when I mean different, have a varied background. So I had sent I'd sent a CV out to my company, right, that had my experience as an engineer, experience because I'd worked in schools as well, and then experience as a BA. And the beauty of it was the person who was interviewing me actually picked my CV because I had the varied, many people say take all that out, it's not very important. It depends. Some companies you want to do that. So diversity is something that they can also, going back to what was just said, diversity can be a very attractive attribute that a company wants. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have been in the job for 20 years. If you've had a very, obviously you must have the skills that they're looking for, but in different sectors can be a very nice thing to sell.
Thank you, Bumi. Yeah, that's very important. Because I tell people will say to you, "Oh, I worked in McDonald's. I don't want to put it in my CV." And sometimes you go for that interview, and all they want to know is about how you worked in McDonald's, how you were, because that's in McDonald's you're learning a lot of skills. You're learning customer service. You're learning working in a high pressure environment. You're learning communication skills. There's so many skills you pick up working in McDonald's. So don't discard anything you've done, because yeah, because where you are today is because of those skills that you learned in those jobs that you probably hated, but that's actually where you actually honed in your core skills, right? Sorry, Grace, you want to say something?
No, it's not. So you finish first, then when it's something.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, so I was just going to say, one thing I realized within myself is, I don't know if it applies to everyone else, but it's just something to share. I feel when you really want a job, especially when you see something you really want, you tend to really get nervous and anxious, because you really want to pass. But if you go with a mindset saying, okay, you know what, I'm just going to go practice and do my best, and whatever the outcome, I know I've done my best. You feel more relaxed and you can just be yourself and you just flow in the interview and you will be having fun. But when you're really uptight and tense and because you really want the job, or you find out it's happened to me a couple of times, and all the brilliant skills and ideas, it will be hard to just come true. So just always go relax. Just, do what you have to do, practice, get your stories, write them, practice them. But don't go with the mindset of, I want this job, I must get this job. Just go thinking, really, even if I get this job or not, there's the next one, or, and just be relaxed. Yeah.
Thank you. So when we say something, any question?
I was going to say, just on the back of what you said earlier, when you started showing the slides, and what Grace just said, one thing I always remember, my manager, the first person who hired me as an engineer, he said to me, Bumi, within 2 minutes, I know whether I'm going to hire this person or not. I've never forgotten.
That's true. That's true.
Robots start interviewing people. We must remember people interviewing people. You must show who you are to some extent, show that you're a human being. It's not just about banging those answers out. You need to, because they're not just looking at your answers or your technical skills. Will this person fit in my team? Oh, I know this client and that client. Will that person be able to communicate with that client? Will they be able to do, because they know what you don't know when you're going into that job. So they want to see how you would fit in. Can I get on with this person? How are they? So just don't be afraid to just be you. Be you. Sincerity. Obviously, that doesn't mean just, being anyhow, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Sometimes I've forgotten what I wanted to say, and then I've made a joke about it, and I'll be like, you know what, I'll remember after this interview, and we've all laughed about it, and I still got the job. So sometimes really it's your personality as well as your answers that takes you through that job. So yeah.
Honesty.
Being honest, being vulnerable, being human, I guess, like when we said, that's the right word, just being human, being yourself. Joy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, how about when you get, good evening, everyone. How about when you get asked of your past failure experiences and how you handled them?
So that's and they ask that. So again, what you're trying to show them is, okay, yes, I did fail, because again, it's, and make sure it's your early career. So when you started off, I made this mistake. And then initially I didn't realize that, that was wrong. But since then I've learned not to do that again. So now because of that, this is why I do this. So you're basically showing that would never happen again. You learned from your mistake, you've grown from it, and you've moved on. Okay, so there's not, again, people make mistakes. It's how do you handle those mistakes? How do you, as a person, come out of it? So you always show, at the end of the day, always show what you've learned. It's about, it's about the growth mindset. Yeah, I did this when I started off my career, or I did this, but at the time, it cost the company X, Y, X amount of money. but I've since learned to double check on on when I'm, whatever that situation was, but you've learned from it, and going forward, I would never, that would never happen again. Okay. Joy, did that answer your question?
So thank you.
Okay,
Yes, it did.
all right. So I've got Wemi. Wemi has her hand up.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Wemi. I wasn't sure if it was a boy or a girl. Sorry. Hi, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I don't quite agree with what Grace said.
About
She was like, you don't have to be anxious or anything. I feel like certain people like have certain qualities. Some people work well under pressure, and some people do not. So like, if you feel like you can work, you like the pressure of like wanting to get the job, will make you like work better, will make you like more focused and all of that. Maybe that's like what you should do. Not like, oh, you should just relax and whatever happens, happens. Don't kill yourself. That's it. Do you get what I mean? Not like.
So, Wemi, I think what Grace was trying to say, though, is I hear what you're saying. I think what Grace was trying to say is because sometimes she said it wasn't about pressure. She talked about being anxious. So if you're being anxious, where you have anxiety, when you're anxious about things, you tend to, then you're nervous. I guess that's an easy word. You're nervous about things. So you're not listening because your nerves are getting control of you. And when you're trying to talk, you're then stuttering or taking deep breaths. It's not about working under pressure. So some people, yes, like I work well best when I'm under pressure. I mean, I would have an assignment and I wouldn't do it until like 2 days before, because that's when my brain kicks in. So some people work well under pressure, and yes, and I totally agree with what you're saying. But I think Grace was coming from a place of anxiety, because if you're anxious, then you're not going to do really well. It's going to come across, and depending on the role you're actually applying for, that might be a bad thing. So if you're going to be working as a consultant, being anxious means you can't talk to clients. They don't need you. They need you to be able to come across as confident, as somebody that you're sure of yourself and you know who you are. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was going to say that those are two different things. Working under pressure and being anxious, or, it's two different things. And when you're anxious, it doesn't even help you think straight, and it doesn't help you to, formulate your thought process properly. So, yeah.
Okay. Wait, did that clarify it?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Symphosia. Your hands up.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
I've been noting some stuff, and it came at the right time because I've got lots of interview coming up.
Oh, congratulations.
Is it a weakness to say a lot of times they ask you what's your area of weakness? Is it strength to say your weakness? And is it weakness to not to say your weakness? Do you understand the question?
I understand your question.
A lot of times they say, what's their area of weakness? And sometimes you feel like if you tell them, that could be a minus for you. What do you think?
So I'll give you an answer to that. So for example, if they say to me, what's my weakness? Instead of saying that I speak fast, right? So I'm going to come up and say to them, so as a business analyst, communication is a core skill. You need to be being able to communicate clearly is a core skill. But I know that I speak very fast, especially when I'm speaking about something I'm passionate about. So I've overcome this by practicing to speak slowly, taking deep breaths before I speak, and pausing in between sentences to help me organize my thoughts. Right? I've said to them, I'm the fast speaker. That's a weakness. However, I've showed them what I'm doing to ensure that weakness doesn't impact how I work. Okay? Simple. Does that make sense?
Or even,
yeah.
Or even like if I was going to answer something like that to you, you could say something like, for me, I could say, okay, one of my weaknesses is fear of failures. And sometimes, that really stops me from, putting my ideas out there. But I've just come to work on myself, like what Vivian said. You just, turn that weakness into how you use it into a positive thing. So I've learned to, that failure is okay, that the worst thing you can do for yourself is not try. So I've learned to put myself forward, think outside the box, go for more innovative ideas and put myself out there. So something like that, and you just turn it around.
Fantastic. Thank you, Grace.
Yeah.
Simple. Does that clarify it for you? So to just answer it.
That's a great answer. That's great answers. Thanks.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, show how your weakness. Yeah, with Dashi, you can use it. Show how your weakness can be turned into a positive, right? And how you're working on yourself. Everybody, nobody is perfect, right? But it's how is you're understanding your weakness. You know what your weaknesses are, and you're trying to improve it. That's the key. So that's what that question is trying to decipher from you. Okay. Anything? Well, oh gosh, it's already 8:01. Sorry, we've run past. If you have any other questions, you can DM us. Grace, thank you for your time. Bumi, thank you for your time. Grace and Bumi, you can find them on LinkedIn for more. If you want to ask them any more questions, I'm on LinkedIn as Vivian Onwatcher. If you want to connect with me, if I hope this has been a useful session to you all. Linda, I know you're asking about the recording. We actually don't send out those recordings, but maybe for this particular session, we'll see what we can do about it. Okay. So thank you all for your time. Any questions before we go? No? Any questions? Everyone is okay. Everyone is happy.
Hi, sorry, just a quick one from me.
Yes, hi, Polake. How you doing?
Hiya. Just taking you back to the start of the session when you asked about, tell me about yourself. What would you advise us in terms of like how long do you want to, talk about yourself? Because you don't want to be seen as waffling. You want to go straight to the point, and in a session you're given 30 minutes. They have quite a lot of questions to ask you. So what would you advise us the ideal time to talk about yourself?
Good question. I always say the maximum time to talk about yourself is 3 minutes maximum, because again, that's how you set the tone of the interview, right? And that's the longest answer you should give, 3 minutes. The rest of your answers should be under the 1 minute mark, right? So 60 seconds. Okay, and I was going to share, as I actually prepared one for myself. So let me tell you what tell me about yourself is for, like I said, you are taking us back, right? So I'll start off by saying I grew up in Lagos, Nigeria, and Africa. Again, why am I saying that? Remember I said early years. That might be interesting to them. Oh, Africa. Yeah, everybody thinks Africa is a country. It's not a country, it's a continent. But we can have that conversation. And then and again, that's you building rapport with the interviewer, right? And I would say when I moved to England for university, where I studied accounting and finance. While I do love numbers, however, I found that I really enjoyed my finance software classes, and knew I would enjoy working with technology to help organizations improve their efficiency. Okay, so again, that's some background about my study, my what I went to the university, what I did in university. My first job following graduation was with a startup company as an account assistant. This was where I unknowingly had my first first taste of business analysis. I helped transition them from a spreadsheet-based accounting to an accounting software system. I understood the challenge the business was facing, carried out some research on the best tools to solve the problem, and then went on to help them successfully implement the software. That got me promoted to financial accountant. I continued on my accounting path until I got my certification, then decided to do what I now knew I enjoyed, which was working with technology. I got my first role as SAP consultant, working for different clients. That is where I really developed my communication skills, my teamwork, facilitation, and understood how projects were completed under the SDLC, under the software development life cycle. While outside work, I enjoy traveling with my family, going to networking events, and reading a good book. I know my skills and experience make me the right candidate for the job, and I hope to show that today. Okay, and that's me done. I've given them a lot of things to start to, and they might actually start to deviate from the question they were going to ask me because of the things I've already told them. So that's how you start to drive that interview to your own benefit. So like, I hope that answers your question, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Bumi was timing me 1 minute 40 seconds. Thanks, Bumi. I'm sure the interview session had been slower, but anyways, so thanks.
But she rushed it. So maybe it would have been 2 minutes.
It would have been 2 minutes. Yeah, I rushed it because I know we run out of time, but I'm really conscious of everybody's time here. But thank you very much. See you next month, just before Christmas. We have another sidebar conversation. I hope it was useful to everyone that attended. Thank you so much. Good night. God bless. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.